A show that tackles the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on JTV. This show is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Colonial Insurances, DG Cell, Delta Petroleum BVI, Cyril B. Romney Tortola Pier Park, and the Gumptions Experience BVI. This is The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards. I want to thank you for joining us the beginning of yet another week here on planet Earth, where we're fortunate to be alive. For those of us who are super healthy, grateful, and for those of us who are having some health challenges, I'm betting that you're taking good care of that to make sure that you're just like the other of us. But today on The Big Story, in the hot seat, we have the Minister for Labor, Immigration, Natural Resources, the Honorable Vincent O. Wheatley. Welcome to The Big Story again.
Thank you, Kathy. It's always a pleasure being here with you.
And I want an explanation before we get any further. Why are you here this morning without your usual tone of voice?
Well, I spent the weekend. It was a very long weekend, Kathy, in Virgin Islands. It was very warm, and I did karaoke.
Oh.
So I've been singing for the last few days.
Oh, so, singing in the rain or in the sun?
Singing in the hot sun.
And singing in the hot
Kathy,
sun.
by the way, I want to thank all those persons from the Sister Island of Tortola who came to the 9th District for their staycation.
That included me?
Yes, and that included you. It was so good having all of you. We really appreciate you coming over and spreading BVI love.
Yes.
I've never seen it so good with the staycation. Mm-hmm. We do staycations every year, but this year was just extraordinary.
Because we are locked in, you have no other option but to stay in.
But apart from that,
we learned. We've
exactly,
we're learning
the sharing of
more.
Exactly, and the families coming together for a new experience in the BVI. I thought it was beautiful.
Wow.
I really thought it was beautiful.
Yes.
All the families and all the villas and so forth, the hotels. It was really good.
Yeah, I'm wondering how it was on Yes Van Dyke and Anegada, but I guess it was
Anegada was also awesome. I mean, very well supported by everyone.
No.
And I must thank all the persons who chose the 9th District for their long staycation.
Okay, and we pulled you out to make sure that you use that voice. All right, so we're going to get into it deep now. We know for a fact that the big topic right on the immigration and labor departments.
Yes.
Give us a summary as to what is happening within these two departments as it relates to borders being closed, as it relates to renewing work permits, as it relates to new work permits, if you're back on that just yet.
Well, Kathy, let me begin by saying that the whole world is still going through this pandemic. It's a time of great uncertainty. We see economies all around the world starting to fall up. I saw just this morning, Turks and Caicos, they're closed, I think, from tonight because the cases this community spread. The BVI is no different. We do not know how long we're going to have COVID along. So we have to learn to live with COVID. COVID has consequences. But as an elected person, our primary objective is to take care of our people here in this BVI, just like every other country. Every single country is doing what we are doing. You're not doing anything, but we're all in this together. All uncertainty is there. There's no playbook for this. We are just trying our very best to do our basic function, which is to protect our people, not only health-wise, but also economy-wise. So as far as the work permits are concerned, we have to make sure our people are given first preferences for employment. There's still a lot of persons unemployed, particularly from the hospitality industries. Particularly, these persons have to retool. So we have to do our utmost best to make sure every single local has an opportunity to work before we entertain others coming in. Of course, there are always critical and specialized areas that we have to give consideration to, where we can't find a local. Therefore, we let a persons come in on work permits. But we're trying to minimize that there as much as possible. Also remember, we're going through labor and immigration reform at the same time. So there's a lot happening right now between labor and immigration. It's not easy. These are very difficult decisions that we have to make. To ask persons to leave if you're not working or don't come until we've made sure we turn every stone to make sure locals are given that first preference for these jobs.
The big concern I am reading and hearing on the ground is those persons who are out of the territory at the moment had to leave for some reason or the other, maybe not at their own choices, but where family circumstances
like medical reasons,
and medical and other. They have active work permits. Their jobs are still there open, and their employees saying, "Wait, I'm just here waiting for you." But that person is saying, "I am not being given the opportunity to return." Speak to that scenario.
We are working through that case by case. We are working through that. So those persons, well, we'll see what the case is. Because, Kathy, I'll say this very, very frankly, there are some companies who have no intention, absolutely, of hiring local persons, qualified or not. And that cannot be allowed to continue. We want to work with businesses, but we want the business also work with us. But when you're going to be intentional about it, well, that's where I have a problem.
Tell me about the magnitude of that. Is this common among quite a number?
I'm hearing it too often, where there are locals in positions and they're not being allowed to advance to the next level. They want to bring in somebody else from outside when they are definite, confirmed, qualified locals. But some of these companies just don't intend to do it for whatever reason. And I'm trying to tell them, yes, I understand, but work with me here. Work with me. Give the locals a chance. If they need training, provide a training for them, or give me a roadmap how you plan to train these persons to advance their careers. But some are saying, I want to bring my friend. I've known this person all my life. We work well together. I want to bring that person to work with me. How can that work, Kathy? If all people remain at home or remain stagnant and outsiders keep coming in and going over them, it is going to create a problem for all of us. We don't need that.
Okay.
We don't need that.
Is this in a particular sector? Is it in the marine? It is in the...
I see it in all sectors. And that's why I'm very concerned about it. I see it in all sectors. There's no one particular sector that's not doing it. Some companies, they do very, very well in terms of advancing the local talent. Some companies just ain't planned to do it. So here you have sometimes the innocent suffering for the guilty, and I'm sorry about that.
Wow.
But we have to protect our people the best we can, and I make no apology for it.
Okay. And so tell me about the closure of companies, because while this is happening, I am hearing, like you are hearing from some sectors that they want who they want. There are some people who are insisting that I can't get the workforce that I need. I'm closing my doors. I'm leaving the British Virgin Islands. Have you heard that?
Not necessarily. I've heard some threats. I've heard threats. If I don't let them do so and so, they will close. Well, I'm watching you close your doors. They're saying, if you don't let me do what I want, we are prepared to pack up and leave. I would hate to see them leave, but you can't blackmail a country like that. That's wrong. It's wrong to even think like that. That because you are a big or major employer, whatever you feel you're doing, if you don't get what you want, you will close and go elsewhere. No country should be held under blackmail like that. I'm not prepared to do it. If they figure that they will leave to spite me and to spite the BVI, life will go on.
Okay, life will go on. And I guess because you are the head of labor and immigration, we are still hearing that as we go along, because the territory borders continue to be closed to a greater extent, that there are more and more companies that are now laying off workers.
Again, because the economy is not what it is, particularly if you are a tourism-based business, you're going to have to make some tough choices. The businesses themselves have to make choices what they're going to do to survive. As a government, we're going to do the best we can to create the environment where businesses can do the best they can do. But this COVID thing is serious, and it is not playing with us, so we can't play with COVID. Some companies will have to downsize. We have the stimulus package to help businesses stay alive, because I can tell you, if we don't do that, some businesses will fold up because there's no business for them. But we are working with businesses to make sure we give them a fighting chance under COVID. This is a new paradigm. This is a new regular we're entering into now.
Okay. Dates. That is one word you keep hearing a lot.
Yeah.
Tell us a date. Tell us an approximate date, time frame when you are likely to reopen some section of the borders, the marine industry, so you can be able to travel. Because what we are seeing from my area of view is that most of the companies who are now laying off more of their staff is from that sector, the sailing, the marine,
the hospitality sector.
The hospitality sector. But August is from the latter part of July into August. Normally, that's the period when you are closed.
Yeah, exactly.
And you do not normally lay off your workers. Everybody gets their little package.
And the vacation time.
And their vacation, and they're back on the job around, let's say, some start
October, November.
November. So what is the rationale? Yes, we know you were closed since March, but what is the solid rationale for persons to be closing and sending off workers, dismissing them?
Well, Kathy, if you follow this whole pandemic from the very beginning, a lot of countries had set budgets and stimulus packages. They set opening dates. They've all been wrong. So I'm not going to sit and tell anybody we're going to do anything by this date or that date. We're going to take this here one heartbeat at a time. We have the Cuban doctors here now. They came out of quarantine on Saturday. They're at Village Key now, acclimatizing and so forth. We're going to have a reception for them later on. So we are building capacity. Once the capacity is in place to handle some little thing to go wrong, we can then start examining, well, what is the next step towards an opening? We have to make sure COVID isn't going anywhere right now. We have to learn to live and walk with COVID. And if you could say what you want to say and do what you want to do, COVID is going to come to the BVI sooner or later.
It's already here.
Exactly. Our job is to build capacity that should it get worse than what we've seen so far, we can handle it. Hence why we have the Cuban doctors there, a precautionary measure. They're out of quarantine now. I'm sure they're going to meet the authorities to decide on a strategy for handling COVID and an open border.
And all have been tested negative. All the Cuban doctors have been.
Well, they're out. So I would hope so. I would hope so. So now that they're out now, they can, for the first time in the BVI, they'll go around, look at the landscape, analyze our weaknesses in terms of if something happens in Enegada or Jos Van Dyke or Tortola. Is it the same strategy, or do we have different plans for all these scenarios here? Go to the various properties, go to Island Bay, Little Bay, go to Guana, go to Cane Garden Bay, go to Lambert. They have to go around and survey the landscape, so to speak, and then come up with a strategy. Now, once we have that strategy, that informs what the next step is going to be.
Isn't it there? Well, I mean, this might be more for the minister.
It is. But I'm just saying generally what our approach.
I almost went a little more deeper into that, but then I realized you're not the subject minister for this.
I am dealing with the borders in terms of persons coming in with the immigration and the labor.
Okay. Earlier, I think it was in April or May, that you had announced that what the departments are now doing in order to make the system a little smoother, and it's all a part of the reform, where persons whose time would have expired and their work permits are in.
We extended them.
You extended. Tell us a little more about that.
Because a lot of persons, even while they wait and go standing from companies, their time would have expired. So we just extended the person stay until they can get the papers regularized. We're not punishing persons for staying here longer than they would have. Because normally a person was allowed 1 month in the country, but if you are trapped here and you can't go anywhere, we just extend the time for you. These are not normal times. Okay. These are not normal times. So we can't think like things you would do during a normal time.
Okay, and that extension is also for those persons who are renewing their work permits?
Well, yes, because what we found, a lot of companies didn't have the good standing, and it takes a while to get the good standing. And some of those persons' time ran out while they were waiting on their companies to get good standing. We simply extended the time.
Okay.
I think that flyer should have been out on Thursday last week, but I'll double check. No. I did have a message go out letting persons know not to worry. We will, while you're waiting your company to get a good standing, we'll extend your time until you get regularized. Okay. We're not trying to punish anyone. That's not what we are trying to do. We are trying to make it work the best we know how.
Okay, and like you said, there is no rule books as to how we go about this. What is the biggest challenge that you are facing within especially those two departments, immigration and labor?
I would say in labor, it has to be getting the locals to participate more in the economy and at all levels.
Explain that a little bit more for me.
As a former business owner myself, I've hired both locals and expats. What we've discovered over the years is that, and it's probably true for a lot of locals, they prefer to hire the expat workers as versus a local worker because they feel that maybe they can pay them a little less. And because in a work permit, they have a little more control over them. They tend not to want to hire locals because the locals will demand more money, but you also get a lot of times good value for money, but sometimes it may go the other way. Getting persons to give locals a chance has been a challenge for me. Even my own local people will tell you, they have a challenge with them. They want to out-hire work persons on the work permit outside. I'm saying give the locals a chance. In some cases, it works beautifully. They are trying. I see evidence of it. In other cases, they simply mean, this person, I've known this person for 15 years. They've worked with me for 20 years on a work permit. This person knows my business inside out. I don't want to lose this person. I hear what you're saying about a local coming in, but this person has been with me for a long time, therefore I don't want to change from this person. That's a challenge for me, getting persons to move from that into let's get locals first. There was a time, I remember there was a time where locals had every single preference to outsiders. And outsiders they wouldn't even come around because they would not have gotten that job. Things changed over the years.
Now, how do you respond to allegations of being victimizing, discrimination, heartless, so many words?
Persons who know me know I don't discriminate and I'm not heartless. People will talk for their own purposes and reasons. I don't take it on. I don't take it on. People will, as a politician, you will be criticized. That's part of the game. You will be criticized whether you do good or whether you do bad. I please two persons, my God and my conscience.
Oh, gotta be conscience.
My God and my conscience. Once those two are good, I am good. So people can say what they want to say.
Okay. Preparing for the reopening of the borders. Key are
well, the borders really aren't closed per se,
Well, yeah.
Be a little more specific. What you mean? Because locals and nationals can come anytime.
Okay, so we're talking about opening up for tourism.
For tourism, okay,
and,
yes.
And other visiting persons. There are some structural things that needs to be in place. And I'm betting that you are, because I've seen the evidence on Jahphix, where the Customs and Immigration Office is now moving apace. I see some work there.
Before, yes.
Before, just after COVID.
It's come on very nice. The building over there.
It was a garden.
Right, exactly. I know the structures are almost finished. We are moving towards the online platform to streamline these things. COVID has slowed us down a little bit because the technicians can't come in right now because the borders are closed to those persons. But we are moving along with that. Hopefully, as time goes on a little bit more, we're more secure with our health responses. We can bring those guys in to advance that project even faster. To really move to an online, touchless situation.
Okay, and there are other areas.
Yeah, because we have to open the borders at some point in time. We cannot continue like this forever. We cannot be professing faith and fear at the same time. So we have to go to our faith, with our knowledge, and slowly and cautiously open our borders. Slowly but cautiously. We're not opening to close down because it's more expensive to reopen the second time. That's what happened in TCI. They had to close back down. It'll cost them 10 times more this time to open up than the first time. The goal is always to close down once and then slowly open up. Slowly and cautiously open up.
Okay. So how do you assess your liking our opening up as to that of the snail or the tortoise?
Oh, you and these analogies. But the way I see it happening, and I'm not saying this is the way it will happen, but the way I think it can happen is we start with small scale tourism, isolated properties that can be contained. They test before they come. They test when they come, so we can make sure that they're COVID-free. But we're still not taking any chances. They go in an isolated place for at least 2 weeks. Maybe we test them again, and then you go on with your vacation. But the policy, but again, it has to be like a long-term vacation, like a month minimum or something like that. It's the way I think it can happen. But I'm not the only one making the decision. We get together, we discuss these things more and more. We consult with the medical process to see what their thoughts are on this. I want to see the villas and hotels full of people, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
Because it brings money.
But it hinges on us being a safe jurisdiction. No one wants to go to a place that's blacklisted because of COVID. I saw, I think over the weekend, where Aruba, I think St. Martin, and USVI are places not to visit. We don't
By
want,
the U.S.
By the U.S.
The U.S. is saying that, and I'm guessing we're to say the same thing
because,
about the U.S. because
they're out of control.
outrageous numbers.
But also most of our tourism to the BVI comes from the Eastern Seaboard, United States, and some from Europe. So again, it's being cautious, screening persons before they come, screening them when they come. I want to see the villas full, I want to see the hotels full, but not at the expense of the health of the country.
Okay. How is the relationship between your department, yourself, and the BVI CCHA? Are you guys in communication to come around strategies as to how we do this?
As a government in general, we do talk to the CCHA, not my department, as a government, the premier body. We are in constant. They have sent recommendations to us, even the Salem community. They've sent their recommendations as to what they think and how they think things can happen. So there are a bunch of people who are feeding into how and when this thing can happen.
Okay.
Because we know we cannot continue just, closed down and being afraid of COVID coming in. That's not the way to live. We have to learn to live and work with COVID.
Okay. However, but we know that this is a conversation that will continue despite what, until COVID decides to go away. And I will say it here again, I hate her. I'm not the type that hates, but I hate her.
But let me hasten to say, despite what we're going through,
their lessons.
The work of the country continues. You can see the many projects. The premier was on last night listing out all the many projects and all the BVI, all the sister islands from Jahphix to Enegada that are currently happening. We haven't just folded our arms and are doing nothing. Life must go on.
Oh, you fold your hands, and then I bet those who are eligible to vote will be on the streets calling for another elections. So you can't afford to fold your hands.
We have to work for the people.
Yes.
That sent us here to work in their best interest and for the country's best interest. And that we are committed to doing. Okay,
so quickly now let's go on to the other department that you're responsible, the other ministry that you were responsible. That is the Ministry of Natural Resources.
Natural Resources, yeah. There's a lot going on in that ministry. You'd have heard me, I think, of the last sitting, talking about some things we plan to initiate, I think, next year, like the banning of TBT in paints, the anti-fouling paint. It makes the board look nice and shiny, lasts a very long time. Well, we're one of very few countries in the world who uses TBT paints. It affects the conch population and a few other things in the environment. So we want to protect our environment. So we want to ban TBT in paints. We also plan to ban single-use plastic, styrofoam, suntan lotion that damages our coral reef. We are currently banning the stony coral tissue disease. We are fighting that. We've been being very successful with that. But it's a very aggressive disease. You have to be on top of it all the time. Because if you ever let up, it takes over, it kills coral quickly.
Yes, oh it's contained right now?
It's pretty much contained now in certain areas, but telling divers to exercise caution when diving, because it may get in your swim gear, and if you go from site to site, you may help the virus transmit, the bacteria transmit to other areas. So we are treating that thanks to national parks and our other NGO partners. I think ARC is one of them, reef keepers and so forth. And that's coming up. Also the banning of yachts pumping out in our waters. That's coming, so we gain person notice, given 1 year. We're going to put a ban to that. We're going to keep our waters very, very pristine. We're doing stuff with fishing, the Minister for Agriculture and Fishing. We are bringing some new bills to the House soon concerning regulating fishing, where you fish and so forth and so forth. Kathy, we have to make sure our great-grandchildren can see live conchs and fish and turtles and whales in the water. I think right now they're in great danger. Okay. They're in grave danger.
We had, during last year, I think it was during the Lobster Fest period, we had that discourse as to what's happening with conch and
well, thanks to the pandemic, there's a lot of pressure eased up off of these species now. So we'll do a survey at some point in time again to see how the populations are doing.
Okay.
But for sure, in near shore, you don't really see a lot of conchs or wilks anymore. They've gone out because of the continuous harvesting of even the juveniles. I'm happy that the mangrove project is doing exceptionally well. We were off to a very late start because the hurricanes had damaged. The plants were all stressed, so they weren't producing any propagules. But now they're catching themselves and they're getting a lot of propagules. I think when we started the project, and I must thank Dr. Leona Jahphix and the college and all those interns and so forth for the interest and enthusiasm towards that project. I think we started with about 40 or 60 propagules. We now have several hundred propagules. We've done 2 planting projects to see how they're going to take off. That project I'm so proud of. Because at the end of the day, all saving grace are going to be those mangroves.
Okay.
Because we lost so many mangroves during the hurricanes.
Okay.
So many. So we're going to build a bank. The goal is to have about 10,000 available at any given time, minimum. That is the goal. And it's happened faster than I thought it would happen.
Okay. When we were closed down for that period, remember you talk about doing water sampling, and there was a hot spot.
Yes.
Not a very much trafficked area, but it was very hot in terms of what should not. Have you been able to determine what is the cause of that
No,
problem?
not yet. I haven't had that meeting yet with Dr. Jahphix. I want to do, actually, we should probably come on your show and do that, because I want her to talk about the samples and the work she has done.
Yes.
Maybe we should bring her on. Let her talk about the samples directly.
Why not?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm glad we did that sampling too.
All right.
And then, of course, you forgot lands. You know, we're working feverishly with lands. Actually, I'll be focusing my energies in about September heavily on lands. There's a lot of things that have gotten behind me by then. Social Security, they're doing their checks. NHI, we're bringing that, getting those reforms in place and so forth. But I want to focus heavily on lands come September. So far, I have the Enegada Lands Committee proposal. That'll be finalized, hopefully in Cabinet on Wednesday.
Okay.
And the Salt Island Lands Committee. I'm excited about that also. So those 2 committees should be in place very shortly. I'm now working on the Virgin Gorda Committee. That'll be the 3rd committee that I'm going to put in place. Because when I go to focus on lands, it's going to happen. I want it to happen very, very quickly.
Okay. Great. I cannot keep you much longer because I know you have another engagement
At 10 o'clock.
waiting. Yes, but thank you for shedding light in some of the. I know there will still be questions and there will still be more updates coming up. And every given opportunity that you can, we have an open policy to your ministry right now. I want to wish you and your departments all the best for this week. We're looking forward to nothing more but progress, progress, progress. And you go get some vitamin C and take care of that voice.
Yes, definitely. Kathy, as usual, I want to thank you for having me on here. I want to thank all the persons out there for the continued support and particularly the prayers. I really appreciate it. I want to thank all those who called me with words of encouragement. Very few persons, but I want to thank the few who called me, pray with me, pray for me sometimes, or WhatsApp me. So I want to wish you a great day. Remember, put God first. Those things mean a lot. They really mean a lot to us because we're under tremendous pressure right now.
Yeah.
Because there's tremendous pressure on the entire country. And so then persons forget that we are also human, and we too are going through this with them. But I guess, you know, you have responsibility. Our job is not to complain. Our job is to deliver for the people.
Okay, and we hold you to that word, to deliver. I want to thank you once again for being here on The Big Story, and I want to thank you for being a great audience at our first edition for this week on The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards. Thank you so much for joining us.